Hey everybody, welcome back to the Matt Report Season 9, last episode of the year and the decade. It's pretty amazing, and it took today's guest 5 years to finally get on my show. It's Vova Feldman of Freemius. If you don't know Vova, I mean, he's the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. Obviously, I've known him for 5 years as he slid into my Twitter DMs asking to be on the show when he started his business before he had any customers. Just working that hustle, trying to get his name out there. But he's smart, he's intelligent, he's persistent, and he's doing a damn fine job, if I say so myself, with Freemius. And if you don't know Freemius, it's like this all-in-one platform. If you wanted to sell digital downloads, WordPress plugins, software, you need a licensing model, but you need more, like marketing, data, analytics, sales stuff. That's what Freemius does. And we're going to talk about that journey today and really dive into, how he solved this problem. Looking back, would he make the same pivots and adjustments? And what challenges is he facing so far? And he, like myself, talks to a ton of WordPress businesses. So he has his finger on the pulse of how things are changing in this landscape, especially post-Gutenberg, and where this new building experience is going to take us. Maybe even see Freemius on a SaaS platform someday. Maybe he'll be venturing into the microconf scene more and more, as a lot of WordPress people do as they sort of quote-unquote graduate from this space. All right, it's mattreport.com. mattreport.com/subscribe. Join that mailing list. Let's get into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Matt Report Season 9. Guess what? Season 9 is coming to an end because the year 2019, for most of us, is coming to an end pretty soon. And who better to kick off 2020 to end a decade than my good friend Vova Feldman. Vova, welcome to the program.
Oh man, thanks for having me. That's a crazy introduction, and I have to live up to the expectations right now.
Listen, we've been friends. I feel like we're like there's a select few people that I would say are really good friends of mine in the WordPress community, and though we haven't spent all too much time together, we spent a few WordCamps together, really getting to know each other, really chatting. Famously, one time, me, you, Scott Bollinger, we wanted to go to a nice steakhouse. And you were like, how much does this cost? And since then, we've been good friends ever since. So I'm super excited to have this conversation today.
Only took 5 years, man.
It only took 5 years. I do remember. So let's just talk about the hustle for a little bit. We were chatting before we hit record, and Freemius, and we'll get into your introduction in a moment. Freemius, which is your company, started, it's going to have its 5th birthday pretty soon, right? You said 2020 February, right?
Yep.
And I remember you reaching out to me when you first started the company, and I think it was when you were going to a Pressnomics. And I think that's what it was. Or it was a WordCamp Miami. And you DM me and you were like, I don't know, you were just like, hey, I'd love to record a podcast when we're together or something like that to that effect. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, who is he? And then the bond was formed ever since. But let's get into the professional side of the show. Let's introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So I am Vova Feldman. I'm the founder and CEO of Freemius. Freemius is a managed e-commerce for selling WordPress plugins and themes, which means that we provide a suite of solutions, including accepting payments, subscriptions, managing licensing, software updates. Basically,
Vova, when I first heard of Freemius, I said to myself, hot damn, this guy's got some competition. He's got some deep-rooted competition because although there isn't, at the time anyway, 5 years ago, it wasn't like big brand competition, but it was more of like trust competition, if that makes sense. There were a few trusted solutions in the community, and I was like, how is he going to uproot people that have been, trusting these individuals for building, let's say, a licensing platform? And I guess there was WooCommerce too, which does digital downloads, but maybe not a direct competitor, maybe an indirect competitor. But tell me, What was that like when you first jumped into the market? What was it like trying to sell this platform to developers who aren't really, I don't know, they're not really forward thinking on the business side of things, most of them?
It was very, very challenging. And probably if I knew about all those platforms, I think that the ignorance actually helped me to, start Freemius because I was not aware about many of those things. Uh, so it was very challenging, and the best evidence for that is that it took us about a year to find the first customer. So just to give you how hard of a sell was that.
What were those early rejections like? I mean, what were people saying? Were they saying like, "Nah, don't really want to switch," or "I really love the competition"? Like, what were those early challenges that it took you a year to finally land somebody?
Sure. So before we start to build anything, the first thing that I've done is customer or users discovery, understand if there's an actual need in the market for a solution like that. So I started to reach out to a bunch of people in the community. I was not part of the community back then, even though I did have a plugin business in the WordPress space. I was never involved. So I started to, call, email people, including you, right, to get feedback and get as much information that I can about that field. And fairly quickly, I realized that the market is kind of divided into three. There are developers that have a free plugin or a theme. They do it for fun. It's a hobby. They don't care about making money from that. The second bucket is developers that had a free product. They ran it for a while. They're pretty excited about their side project, whatever it is. And they understand that there is a potential financial benefit here, and they're interested to look for a solution to maybe start making some money for the weekend initially, and later turn it to something bigger. And the third bucket is businesses, already plugin theme developers that making money. They're running something. They already have an e-commerce system in place that is working. So in the beginning, I understood that it will be hard to get the third, the third segment of the market, because just like you said, when you're just starting, you still don't have, any proof. You don't have success stories. It's really hard to bet with your business on a brand new business, right? So I understood that this is something that it would be hard and probably not the best segment to start with. On the other hand, the offering and what we're thinking to start with in the beginning was super compelling to developers that just starting in and want to get into monetization. Because the way I envision that is you will be able to start selling, take a free plugin, turn it into a freemium. And this is one of the reasons why the company called Freemius, freemium subscriptions, this is how it started. So the goal was that you'll be able to achieve that in a matter of 10 minutes. While the other solutions that are out there, it still takes time. Even though they're relatively simple, it can take you a few weeks until you can actually spin up a digital e-commerce website to sell plugins and themes with all the systems in place. You'll need to buy a bunch of add-ons, extensions, all of that. So this is that was our strategy, I would say, on the first 2 years to get those developers that are just starting or they already selling, but they're still not selling a lot. And another thing that we discovered during the discovery process is that doesn't matter who I've shown it to, everyone were excited from having analytics. So for us, or for me, it was very clear. My background is startups and software as a service. So I don't know any other way how you can run a business that processes money and you build a product without actually knowing the data behind that business. So one of the obvious features that we had in the beginning was analytics. So after I saw that everyone were excited from that, doesn't matter whether you make money, you don't care about making money, or you just starting, is everyone wanted to get some analytics, because right, like today there is no analytics in the WordPress space. So that was one of the reasons that kind of the first product that we actually launched was Freemius Insights. Okay, which is pretty much a subset of the capabilities of Freemius as a penetration strategy to start building the relationship with the developers that either are already selling, and we know that it will be pretty hard to get them on the first year or two. And it's also compelling to developers that don't really care about monetization today, but maybe in a year from now, maybe in 2 years from now, they'll consider monetization and they're already using Freemius. We already built some sort of relationship, they're using our SDK, and the transition from that to starting to sell, it's minor. Like the amount of work that you need to do is a matter of configuration in the Freemius dashboard. So that was kind of the overall strategy. It was clear to me from day one that it's a long-term play. It's not something that, like a unicorn in a year that will have all the market.
Sure. I mean, so let's frame it. We have, most folks are distributing their plugins through WordPress.org. No stats of relative, impact on our business, right? That we get, right? We get to see some download counts, right? We can see some average ratings, but WordPress doesn't really help a vendor, push or analyze their product sales. You have competition that's sort of rooted in the community, right? Folks that are offering plugins that just everybody knows, so they just trust that, that particular brand and they go with it. And then there's bigger branded competition like the WooCommerces of the world, and maybe some other competition outside of the WordPress space, but nothing significant. But like you said, the big challenge for most developers really isn't the tech stack. It's just most people are like, I'm not really trying to make a business out of this. And if they are, a lot of these, which is always laughable to me, is like, whatever happens, happens. Like, I'm not really trying here. It's nice to make $5,000 a month. While you and I might be looking at that going, but this is a business. You're running a business here. Over the years, I've seen you not only obviously talk and market your product and the benefits of the product, but I've seen you dive deep into business. I don't want to say business coaching, but you do a lot of content around helping businesses grow.
We also do coaching in some way. Absolutely. It's part of our offering. Yeah. So the way we see that, unlike our competition, our business model is revenue share, which means that if we can help our partners, and we call them partners, even though they're like customers behind the scenes, but we treat them like real partners, because if we can help them become more successful, we are benefiting from that directly, selfishly, whatever you want to call it. Our interests are aligned. So if we can coach them and help them with, a conversion rate optimization or pricing structure or different tricks or whatever it is, we are interested and have that incentive to constantly help them. And I am having calls with like different partners of ours. Right now, it's not very structured, and this is something that we do want to get into more in the future. Once we grow the team, to actually put a system in place that will do all these things more systematically. But even today, we are having calls with our partners, and very similar to coaching or mentorship. And, we're learning about their pains and trying to help them to get to their next milestone. So we are definitely doing that. And we're trying also to share all of that data in our blog.
Right. And I mean, that number one, it's awesome. Like everything that I've seen you do, from carrying the brand from, start to, here we are almost 5 years into this. You've just done a fantastic job of it. I do have to take a step back and recognize, like, seeing your growth, just from a branding perspective and shaping the product and shaping the content around it, which sounds easy when you just say that. It's not. And you've done a really good job at that. I mean,
thank you. I really appreciate that.
I mean, it might mean peanuts to you because I'm not giving you money.
Oh, it's not peanuts, man. It's not peanuts. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, but you've done a fantastic job, better than most that I've seen around for 10 years. So let's talk about that. So here we are, 5 years into this. I've seen just a big shift of either just straight up consolidation, where small plugins, small theme shops are just getting scooped up by the bigger players. And by bigger players, I mean like big hosting companies like a GoDaddy of the world or a WP Engine, and other larger plugin companies scooping up the same. I've seen a lot of people shift their business to SaaS, right? With the introduction of Gutenberg over a year ago, the whole fallout of the community felt like people that were like really just building their weekend project plugins were like, you know what, I'm just going to go look elsewhere. So I see this shift in the landscape happening. What about you? Like, how has the last couple of years impacted your sales pitch, your offering, and where do you see it all going for the next year?
Wow, man, you raised like 5 different topics that we can talk about every one of them for an hour. There's definitely more mergers and acquisitions in the market because I know many of the product people in the community, they reach out to me when they're interested to sell or to buy stuff. So I can tell you that earlier this year, there were like a few months that literally like every second day someone reached out to me and I'm buying, I'm selling, something about that. So there are changes and I think a lot of that is related to Gutenberg. Obviously the editor is kind of shifting and a lot of plugins and themes relied on the way WordPress worked before Gutenberg. And now, in order for them to stay relevant, for the next year or two, it requires significant changes. And a decent amount of the plugin and theme businesses in our ecosystem are what I call in maintenance mode. So it's not something that is visible, but they don't really have heavy development. It's more about supporting the product, making sure that it remains active and up to date with all the APIs if it integrates with something, but there is not a lot of heavy development there. And I think that all that Gutenberg movement kind of scared many people. So many people started to look for exit points to avoid the situation that, in 2 years from now, when they want to sell, they won't be able to sell it to anyone because it's not relevant to Gutenberg, not compliant, and all of that. So that's kind of the acquisitions. Definitely, we also see things. This is not something that I particularly see, but we all see in the community that the hosting companies are starting to become more aggressive and acquiring different products, theme shops. We have the StudioPress acquisition. And other things. And also, I would say there's a general, like the market is maturing. If 5 years ago, not many, we were, I don't know if you know that, Matt, but you were the only WordPress business related content outlet 5 years ago. So you were kind of my inspiration when it comes to content back then.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Glad I
sure.
made an impact.
Yeah, for sure. So people were kind of scared to talk about those business topics and raising the word money when it comes to WordPress. But the market really matured since, in the last 5 years. So I think also the hosting companies matured. I was pitching different ideas to hosting companies since I started, things that I still can talk about. But they're much, if it was, big no-no 4 years ago, because it was, no, we don't want to deal with Matt. We don't want to, not you, the other Matt, okay? We don't want to do anything that will, risk our relationship or whatever it is in the community. And now they are more aggressive, and now they see that also Automatic becoming more aggressive with WooCommerce and Jetpack and the things that are moving. So there is a clear consensus in the community that those big companies, okay, it's not a shame. We all understand that the WordPress market share is huge, and now it's the time to capitalize on that. And I think that the hosting companies and Automatic, which is also a hosting company in one way or another, they're becoming more aggressive when it comes to maximizing the dollar amount per user.
I agree. I mean, one of the when people, when I put on my conspiracy theorist hat, and
I love your hat. I love that hat, by the way.
When I talk about Gutenberg, look, I actually have been using Gutenberg as just like an end user, sort of enjoying it on a particular set of themes. Like I like it on 2020, I like it on the Chaplin theme, both developed or designed by the same designer, and I find that it's actually a pleasant experience when I don't need full on page building tools. But the other side of it is, what I'm predicting is we're just moving to the SaaSification of WordPress for the benefit of Automatic and Jetpack, right? And the next battlefield will be the block discovery tool. And, having developers, third-party developers, your customers, my friends, be able to show up in those search results so that they can continue their business. So when I put that hat on and people think this, like, he's just ranting about he doesn't like Gutenberg. No, actually, I've been rather enjoying it, but I just know that, why haven't we ever seen a marketplace on WordPress.org? Why hasn't there ever been an official store that you can go to aside from WordPress.com? That's because I think that Matt Mullenweg knows the greater approach. Obviously, he's the architect here. And he knows that, look, if I can kind of reset search and discoverability through the method of blocks, I can now control, that experience, and I can bubble up Automatic's solutions ahead of anyone else. And oh, by the way, if we can search for blocks across the internet on any platform that Gutenberg is installed on, which is, people point and laugh at me when I say that. Like, I literally think that in 2 years' time, you'll see SaaS-based businesses that have absolutely nothing to do with WordPress running an implementation of Gutenberg. And oh, by the way, you can monetize it through that. It's the SaaSification. It's everything you've ever wanted to build in a SaaS app with data and touch points. And Automatic is going to own that experience through Jetpack. And it's definitely going to change the landscape, which leads me to ask you the question, what about Freemius in an open market? What about Freemius detached from WordPress, but, MicroConf attendee wants to build her new SaaS app, and they can attach, abandoned cart analytics, user authentication or user email list building, whatever, all of the features of Freemius, but detached from WordPress. Is that the next journey, or is that relatively a tough mountain to climb?
Would you mind if I wear my renting hat too for a minute?
Go for it. I love your hat too.
Great. So I actually think, the fact that Automatic controlled search is already happening right now and been there for years already. Like the default search engine of products connected to WordPress is WordPress.org. And, when you go to search for plugins and themes, what you see there is the featured or recommended, that most of that is Automatic already. So they also control the search for plugins and themes today, if you think about that. Moving back to the
let's keep our hats on for just one more second.
Okay, no problem.
Listening to the word, the state of the word. Matt briefly mentioned, well, we're selecting. I forget how. I'm just going to paraphrase here, but the general feel was, we know people were searching for these blocks, or we just knew people were searching for these blocks. Well, how did you know? Were you able to access the .org search data or data somewhere else? And why doesn't every vendor, every developer have access, to that same, information. And again, people are like, oh, you're overthinking it. No, what this all means is that small plugin developers who are using their revenue to feed their families will slowly disappear. And that's the battle that's the reason why I question these things. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's it. That's all. That was just a
so it's definitely a huge competitive advantage when you can access, the search data to see what is the demand for. And I think that this data, it's not a new discussion. It's something that's been in the community for a while. I do think that this data should be available. Just like Google Trends, we should have, WordPress.org plugins and themes trends, the same concept, to kind of see what are, what's going on in the market. It can give a huge competitive advantage in terms of what products to focus on or to build or how to optimize SEO and things like that. Okay, let's move to freemius and SaaS and stuff like that. Okay, so the hat is off.
For now.
So freemius right now, like the engine itself is platform agnostic. So we have a licensing engine, code repository, updates engine, cart abandonment recovery, affiliation, all of that. It has nothing to do with WordPress. Okay, currently we support selling plugins, themes, and also SaaS. So if you do want to start a service with Freemius, you can do that. The difference, and this is why we're kind of focused on the WordPress ecosystem, is the WordPress SDK that we offer plugin and theme developers. And the reason it is so powerful is the whole premise of 10-minute integration. That's the only way that you can do that. The benefit in WordPress is we know exactly how the dashboard looks like. It looks the same for everyone. We know the structure. We know where we want to put, different menu items, different pages, different visual components, and logic. So this is why we're focused on. This is one of the reasons why we're kind of focused on the WordPress space. The second reason, it's the largest market share and it's the least monetized compared to other ecosystems. So the potential for us as a company is the highest here. But we do think to expand Freemius in the future for other similar environments when you have a core platform and what we call distributed software, which is basically the opposite of SaaS, code that is running on device, on a server, on your browser, on whatever it is, and is not connected to a backend. Because all those challenges that WordPress plugin and theme developers are facing is also relevant to browser extensions. It's also relevant for HubSpot themes, for landing pages. It's also relevant for all these other NPM packages or whatever it is. It's all the same stuff. So we are planning to expand there in the future. I don't think it will happen in the next 2 years because the WordPress market is still growing and we are far from getting the market share that we want to be at.
And have you started to see, trying to bridge the gap, like have you started to see your current WordPress customers start to explore a traditional SaaS market? Like I know that like the big goal is still WordPress. It's still the easy one to consume for you and your company, but have your customers started to make the shift away from WordPress? Have you noticed a trend at all, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I don't see a trend of, plugin developers moving to SaaS, to be honest. We do get requests, and questions about how to integrate Freemius with SaaS. But I don't feel that, at least from our partners, that people are suddenly moving to SaaS right now. We do see much more Gutenberg, products built in. So this is a challenge also on our end. In some cases with the SDK, because it's all JavaScript based and React based. So all the licensing stuff, we suddenly need to think how we, add that inside the SDK. So we do see much more Gutenberg stuff. being built, but I don't see a trend of SaaS.
One of the things that I think is really going to be, a clear winner, I'm saying this cautiously because it's a quasi competitor to you, is WooCommerce, right? So recently, I spun up a merchandise store for the podcast, and I used WooCommerce as an end user for like the first time in over a year since I had really like set up an e-commerce store. And the WordPress purist in me was like, damn it, I have to enable Jetpack because you can literally not move around the website without a massive banner following you around to enable Jetpack. And I had to enable
from WooCommerce.
Yeah, like there was just like this massive banner that just kept.
Okay.
It was one of those things where it was just like, if I was a typical end user, which I was in that point, because I literally had no time to really think about this and set it up. I was trying to get it set up before WordCamp US. It was like an idea that sprung on me. So I was like, I got a couple hours, I'm going to build this site. And it was just one of those nagging things. Like every time I logged in, it was this big Jetpack banner. Then there was like this third WooCommerce service that I had to enable. And again, without me like spending time, like, what am I really enabling here? I was just like, okay, fine, enable it. Like, just get out of the way. Like, I just need to start building. At the end of the day, I was able to put together a store rather quickly as an end user, put it together rather quickly. And the Gutenberg blocks that were available allowed me to quickly add, the handful of products that I had on a homepage without me even having to set up a page builder, right? It just worked. And to me, that's a signal of where Automattic is really going to win over the next couple of years. Is you're gonna be able to do all of these things with Jetpack, contact forms, e-commerce, membership, gated content, pop-ups because they integrate with MailChimp. You're going to be able to do these 12 things that you normally reach out to 6 or 7 plugin vendors to buy. You're just going to do it all with Jetpack. And what's going to happen is people are just going to say, you know what? Screw it. It's just easy. It's just easy for me to do it. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to succumb to the Jetpack, the Automattic offering, because it just took me 2 seconds to enable everything. All of that is to say is like, that's where I see the beauty in your platform, because you're solving the same thing for people on, a software licensed business model or subscription-based business model. You've got all the tools around it. And you're like, you don't have to install 7,000 plugins or go to 5 different vendors. We just do it all here. And I think that that's really where you're going to win. Is that a fair shake right there to say like, yeah, because I mean, right on your homepage, you're saying that you're solving this complexity. Are you getting that same signal from your customers? They're just like, yeah, this was easy.
I think so. It's 2 things: the easiness and the fact that everything is out of the box. But the second difference is the difference between self-served software versus software as a service. So one of the challenges with WooCommerce or EDD is that you need to, you get that software, but it's still your responsibility to maintain that. And if there are bugs or issues in the code, which happens to every piece of software, it's just a matter of time until you hit a case that trigger those bugs. You either need to fix it yourself or you need to wait for an official release. And that's quite challenging when you have, like a dozen of add-ons. Not necessarily all of them are developed by the same team. And every time you need to update one of them, you are kind of risking your website not to function as it should because of compatibility issues. So when you have a solution, it's like one-in-all solution that built by the same company and all the features are working together, you don't have to deal with those maintenance challenges. So if there's an issue, because it's SaaS, we get the reports and we can just fix them. So it's fixed for everyone. And also the compatibility issues. It's all built by the same vendor. It's all working together. It's not independent pieces of code. So this definitely helps to stabilize your business and save you a bunch of time, focusing on your product versus maintaining your e-commerce. I do think back to, let's wear another hat for a second and Jetpack stuff. So the thing is, and this is what I generally believe in, I think that the non-Jetpack products, they will always, let's say you start to talk about forms. So I think that the market leader in the form space will always produce a better product than Jetpack. Because that's their company's core. They're experts in that field. They know it upside down. And in Jetpack, it's just one module out of many. So it doesn't really get the treatment that the company that is focused on that component can give that. So yes, Jetpack is going and already eating a decent amount of the market share for, let's call it newbies, okay, or people that don't have time. Like you said, I'm busy, I just want to spin something, and if it's enough, it's good enough, and I will run. But I don't think that companies will die. You will always have the several, I don't know, top 3 leaders in every product vertical, and they will continue growing in one way or another.
Let's flip that to other companies that might be doing the same thing a la Jetpack. And to me, again, sort of like what you're doing, like it's all about the experience, right? So the experience should be easy. It should have all of the options, developed under one roof. So there's only one, as they say in the support field, there's only one throat to choke. It's just you. If something goes wrong, there's not 17 vendors they have to look at. I've seen this with Elementor, right? Where Elementor has just skyrocketed to adoption, blowing past, a lot of page builders that were out there before them. And it's like one feature after another, right? They just got into the gallery space. I expect they get into the form space, pretty soon. And not followed shortly after that will be e-commerce to some degree, like some basic level of selling a product, and ultimately making a leap to a SaaS-based offering, right? Where they can control the whole experience and they just become a platform themselves. I just see this happening at a lot of steps or stages in the market where a lot of people just have to own the entire experience. I'm really concerned. This is just a statement, not really a question. I'm just concerned for, if you're not doing all the things for everyone, you are going to get passed, by a potential customer, right? They're going to look at you and say, well, you don't have 1,700 other options for me. So I'm going to pick the person who does. And by the way, because they have mass volume, it's only $50 compared to your 200. I'm just kind of concerned where that whole movement of everyone wants to be a platform for good reason, but
yeah,
it's just a general scare.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging for sure. But I think, once you start owning the infrastructure, let's call it that way. So like a page builder is the infrastructure for building your site, or in our case, Freemius is the infrastructure for monetization. Then naturally, when you grow, you see opportunities, right? So just to give you an example, we have a big and growing audience of small business owners, those plugin and theme developers. So the amount of things that we can do with that community is enormous. And it's like the hosting companies, right? We provide you the host, but why not sell you themes right now if we already have you, right? So the hosting companies are getting it right now. It took them a while to get there, but they're getting it into that. And it's kind of natural transition. We all talk about that, that you need to have a community to market your product. That's the number one thing that can separate you from the competition. So once you build that community, you slowly start to, add complementary things into your offering or additional, upselling things to them. And it's kind of a natural move and shows that, the market is maturing. And indeed, if you're sitting, and you are kind of focused on this one product, one functionality, and you don't evolve into additional things, you are doomed to die eventually.
Right. Justin Jackson, who is a sort of a SaaS, I don't know, aficionado, a SaaS entrepreneur, I guess I should say. And he runs a company called Transistor.fm, which is a podcast hosting service. He's been on a pretty large rant of late, talking about when you're starting a business, it's, the market is the most important. Jump into a market that's already established and dust your hands off. And that's the best way to start, which I agree with. But like you said at the top of the show, and like so many other entrepreneurs before, had you done that, you probably wouldn't have built Freemius the way it was built today. And while I admire his, the analytical viewpoint of that, I just don't know if you can always start a business like saying, build another form plugin, build another e-commerce plugin. I know it makes sense, but it just feels like sometimes when you come up with an idea as a creative entrepreneur, like, yeah, I know it's going to be tough because the market doesn't exist, but it's also a great way to learn, to adjust, and uncover a market. I mean, what are your thoughts? If you were to do it again, would you just start by looking at big market, jumping into that market, and going up against competitors feature for feature?
So I'm thinking here. So generally, I agree with that approach that it's better to start a product in an existing market instead of building that market around you, and you need to invest a lot of resources into educational stuff and all of that. And I've been asked about like, Vova, I want to build a plugin or theme. Like, what should I work on? A niche or a mass market solution? And my answer is, and it still remains the same answer, that you have a higher chance to build a larger business if you tackle an existing vertical that already have market leaders and going for mass market and not going for a niche. And the reason for that is because first of all, if you are an entrepreneur and you are getting into product, you need to be in a position that you can build the best product in that vertical. You have to be in that position. If you can't really build the best product, there's no point to start with that at all. So assuming you can build the best product, in theory, all you need to do is to learn about the pains of the existing leaders, right? What are the pain points of their customers? What are the issues in the UI, UX? Really get to know it inside out and build a product that have a better user experience. So I think that the key in today's products, whether it's digital products or physical products, it's user experience. Because when people, the experience of people buying products, especially if we're talking about, let's start with freemium, because that's easier when you have something to start with. When I'm, choosing which product I want to install on my WordPress, I will just get a bunch of products, and the first one that it will be the easiest for me to configure and will solve the problem that I need to solve, that's the one that I'm going to end up using. I'm not going to continue looking for other products. Obviously, I can also go and read reviews and all of that, but many people, this is how the behavior starts. You need to get your product discoverable, and you need to get the product with the best user experience. I think that it's much easier. For example, let's take SEO. It's a mass market product, generic product that every website needs, SEO. I think it's easier to start a new SEO plugin and get, let's say, 5% market share. And that 5% market share will be 5% from the total WordPress market share versus starting a niche product in a market that is not exist yet, which means that you're starting with a 0% target audience, and you need to, nurture and educate people just to think about maybe using your product from the first place. So this is my thinking, and if you really want to build, this is kind of my equation to build a decent size plugin theme business. Choose an existing mass market vertical and build something better with a better user experience. That's the key.
Yeah. Yep. It's certainly the way to go about it. It's certainly one of the issues, or a pretty big issue that most people face. I guess that, sometimes just being somebody who has tried his hand at a few products here and there, it does make sense. It's just also, I always look back at it as, even though those products weren't a massive success, I was able to learn a lot sort of along the way. And I feel that, and at least from the entrepreneur side, which I guess isn't money in the bank. It's just like, hey, I learned how to be a better entrepreneur. I learned how to be more either creative or communicative.
The Dropbox before Dropbox existed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, I was able to learn all these things, and probably wasn't the smartest way to go about it, but sometimes I think it's all relative at the end.
It's easier to learn from mistakes versus learning from success.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's important to have them.
Hey, speaking of SEO, what do you think about the old animated GIF across all of the WordPress dashboards on the Black Friday sales?
I understand, I think it was a little too aggressive, and they could have done a better job. But generally speaking, I think, it's a fair marketing stunt. Like, they've been bashed about that with, I think, more than 100 negative reviews. So that's a fair market, right? It's kind of like a free market. You try something, it's not working, you're going to get the feedback back from the community. So it's like with everything in marketing or conversion rate optimization, right? Also, exit intent pop-ups are freaking annoying. That's what people can argue, right? On the other hand, they're proven to increase your lead generation by 700%. So it's working, right? So you can make everyone happy. So the more aggressive you become, you will, annoy more people. But on the other hand, there's a reason why Yoast did that. I'm sure they made a lot of money from that ad.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's you let the free market respond to it, and you have the ability to do it. Number one, you let the free market respond to it, like you said, 100 or so negative reviews. That's the fallout. But hey, this is no one else is going to help you push your plugin, and we're only working with what we're given. Right, we're working with WordPress, and I see both sides of it because as somebody who spent the first part of his WordPress product career, trying to submit things into the WordPress repo, especially the theme repo 5, 6, 7 years ago, however long it's been, it was just, you just got punched in the face left and right for, for the, you put your call to action in bold. We will not have that. We will not have that in this theme. That will be removed, right? Back of the line for you. And it was just like, man, you just can't get in anywhere. And then, obviously times have changed. But all right, speaking of times changing, we talked before we started recording. Right now you're in this sort of growth phase. You're hitting some new challenges. You're looking for new ways of growth. What does that look like for you heading into the new year? What's the big New Year's resolution that you're going to focus on to keep moving the needle forward for Freemius?
Yeah. So I would say that in the past 2 years, we've seen our highest or quickest growth. And we're so hyper-focused on, getting more and more customers, migrations, and all of that. We didn't have time to properly scale the team. So up until 3 weeks ago, we were still 5 team members. And we have hundreds of customers. So it is currently quite challenging, to be honest, to maintain the same pace of product development, and while still doing all the other things, including supporting our customers, our partners, and all of that. So in the past 2 or 3 months, my focus was hiring, and hiring. So we decided to pause product development until we scale the team. And right now, our focus is supporting our existing customers. We even thought to kind of stop registration for a while and move it to a waiting list because of the growth. I don't think we'll end up doing that because we did manage to hire 2 developers that ending their training by the end of this week. So I'm pretty excited. So the goal for next year is, to get back to product development and continue growing the customers and scaling the team size together with our customer size. So from my end, it means, unfortunately, I don't have time to develop as much as it was before. In the past 3-4 months, I almost didn't do any of that. And right now, it's kind of, transition for me, even though I was doing management and many other things before, but now I feel more of that. So we have, many exciting things that we want to ship in 2020. And yeah, now is, preparing the team to be ready to continue supporting the existing customers and also delivering all the cool things that will help our partners to grow their businesses.
One of my last guest, Jordan Gall of CartHook, which I guess provides a similar type of service, but for Shopify and BigCommerce customers. One of the things I really like that he did, and he's sort of been in business the same amount of time, roughly, is he sort of put this application process up front, right? Like you have to actually apply, to work with CartHook, and your customer base is probably, vastly different. The WordPress developer versus, maybe the Shopify merchandise store owner or what have you. But I did like that thinking, and it's something that has really sort of just stuck in the back of my head. Because it's not always, this is going to sound weird, but why does the consumer always have to have the choice? Why can't we, the business owner, have the choice to work with the customers we actually want to work with? And I know we all have to pay the bills, so it doesn't make sense all the time. But I do like that thought process of you have to actually apply to work with us. Let's make sure this is an absolute perfect fit. And especially in your case where you might be spending a lot of overhead, maybe doing migrations, educating the customer, maybe the first 30 days, it's like they're consuming all of your business content and they're asking you questions. Hey, should I optimize this? Should I do that with my marketing message? And you find yourself really committing to the first front end of a customer, where it might take you some time to make up on all of that cost. So maybe something like that would work, where instead of, closing it down and making a VIP list, you actually have to make people sort of apply and make sure that they're perfect fit.
So we don't want to get into filtering people. Let's call it that way. We are saying no to people when we think that it's not a good fit. And actually, I think a month or 2 months ago, someone got into our chat, our online chat on the website. And he was like, I want to sell something physical. I think whether it was like drop shipping or something. And I'm trying to explain him, look, man, this is not for you. Like there are many other tools, use them. And he was so aggressively wanting to use Freemius. So I had to push it hard. Like, no, you're not going to use it. It's not a good fit. So we are saying no. But not in terms of like filtering based on, size of the business or things like that. And like, to be frank, we paused migrations. So we did say no for several big vendors in the past few months. So it's not no indefinitely. We just told them that, in the next few months, we already had prior commitments and also we're growing the team. So we'll get there. So again, it's a good position to be at. But one thing that I learned in all those migrations and sales in general, that All those things are like the timing matters a lot. And if someone want to move to Freemius right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that in a month from now they will move. They will be interested to do that too, because one of the things that I also discover during the process is that people usually migrate to alternative solution when they hit a pain point, something that I say, no more, I'm tired of that. Okay. And it doesn't matter what you sell them and how your solution is amazingly 10 times better than the whatever they're using right now. The point that they will migrate, would be interested to transition to your solution, is once they will hit a big pain point that they will say no more. And the thing is, those pain points are temporary, because right now I'm tired of that. But after 2 weeks, the pain is like time working and healing pains. So the pain, it won't be as hard as if it was when it's happening. So time also matters a lot. So there is a risk for us that we may lose those customers. But like I said, it's part of the growth pains.
Do you have anybody, and this will sort of be one of the final questions here, do you have anybody using Freemius in sort of an indirect way? Like, is there somebody not doing the typical WordPress product that you've allowed to use Freemius, and it's kind of just an interesting model?
Yeah, we have a developer that sells jQuery modules, for example, with Freemius. We have a bunch of SaaS products also sold through Freemius. We have, what else? What other use cases? I'm trying to say no when they're asking. Sometimes they just integrate and start selling with that. So we can't really like control that.
Cool. Vova, this has been a pleasant episode, even though
we should do it more, man.
We should do it more. I got to stop having kids, and we got to start getting to more WordCamps together so we can enjoy some more time. Where can folks find you to say thanks?
So on Twitter, I am just Vova Feldman. Just like my name, you can feel free to email me directly, vova@freemius.com. Always happy to help when the context is right. I'm not gonna do like Matt. Who is this guy? I don't know him. And then do a podcast after 5 years.
You had to slide that one in.
I had. No, I'm just kidding. So feel free to reach me via email or Twitter or Facebook as well. I'm pretty available.
Where's the next WordCamp you're going to go to, so long as the airlines let you pass or the countries let you pass into their borders?
Yeah. WordCamp Asia. We're pretty excited.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. So we actually planning to bring most of the team and do a little retreat there. So we already booked this very cool boutique hotel right next to the venue. It's like a theme hotel. So it has a bunch of rooms. Every room has a different theme. So we're gonna. The plan is kind of work together on building the roadmap for 2020.
Well, if the Freemius team is listening, man, Vova's getting soft. If I ever heard him say that he booked a boutique hotel room, then you know that he's getting soft in his old age. So I hope everybody on the Freemius team enjoys it. I hope you have a good trip over there.
Thank you.
Everyone else,